Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Three, two, one, go.
Okay, respected chief guest and all the dignitaries present here, a very good evening. I, Samriti Kanchan, would like to welcome you all on behalf of our Club Aesthetica. वीर सावरकर या कायर सावरकर, जाति न मानने वाले सावरकर या हिंदुत्व के नाम पे भड़काने वाले सावरकर, देशभक्त या देशद्रोही. In our country, there is hardly any figure as controversial as him. Veer Savarkar is not just a person or not just a fighter. Savarkar is a thought process which shaken the Britishers. For some people, Savarkar is a person with a fear. And for some people, he's a person with perfect strategy. Savarkar's life gives the message that demanding for mercy is not always a request, but it can be a strategy to defeat enemy. Today's youth is just talking Savarkar as a topic of debate, but Savarkar's life is one of the biggest lessons from our history. Today's generation even can't imagine what life he would have been faced with 50 years of imprisonment and getting rejections for even after six mercy petitions. The biggest message from Savarkar's life can be if you love your nation, you don't need any another ambition in your life. The world is full of diamonds and gems, but we have forgot about its worth. It's a sad reality that India today has forgotten Veer Savarkar. It is the time we honor his contribution and continue to touch and inspire generations to come. So today let's commemorate a hidden personality which is lost in the pages of history. So before any further ado, I would request our chairman, Advocate Nitin Apte sir, to cast the light of his knowledge upon us. Nitin sir is a practicing advocate in all civil laws, cooperative laws, consumer laws, family law, service law, criminal laws in various courts in Pune and High Court Appellate. Sir has been a light bearer for Savarkar's ideology for many years and has been delivering his esteemed words to masses since many past years. He delivered his speech on Veer Savarkar in many schools and colleges like Arya Samaj Trust in Pimpri on subject like Visionary Vision Savarkar in famous Vasant Vakyanmala, Pune in the year 2010. He also talked about tribal and Kashmir and Article 370 of the Constitution of India in the same Vasant Vakyanmala, Pune in the year 2013. He also talked about many personalities like Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj in Pimpri College, run by Rayat Shikshan Sanstha. As well as he talked about the partition of India and programs organized by Srimad Dagdu Shet Halwai Trust. He was also selected for the role of Veer Savarkar in TV serials. There's a lot of more to talk about his immense achievements. Today we have actually been blessed with his presence. So you have motivated us always been by an example of light in the darkness. We would be delighted with your expertise and knowledge in every possible way. Over to you, sir.
Anika ma'am, I guess there's some technical issue this network.
Dear participants, there is one small announcement. Kindly bear with us. There is some technical snag. Within 2 minutes, it will be solved and Sir will be back in the meeting. Please hold on.
No issues, ma'am.
social media, other social.
Sir, we are done with the introductory part.
Or
You may start now.
should I start?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry that there was some disruption uh, in my internet connection because of which I could not log in. Some technical snag. All right. Uh, Today's topic given to me is Eternal Savarkar, Director Club Aids, the Director CLE, and Professor in charge of Club Aesthetica, Dr. Anga Baldota, DS Law College Principal, Dr. Priya Chopde, all my colleague teachers and friends. On the eve of 56th death anniversary of Swatantravir Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, we all have assembled here today on this August dais, and topic given to me by this organization is Eternal Savarkar. We all are students of law, and when we use any terminology, we have to be extra careful and always cross checking whether the terminologies which we are using are right or wrong, being law students. And the topic of today's discussion is Eternal Savarkar. Was or is Savarkar eternal? Was his thought perpetuated or perpetual? The adjective which we are using for Veer Savarkar, whether that is right, we have to check in today's discourse whether we are using proper terminology. And simultaneously, we have to study what Veer Savarkar's life was, what his philosophy was and is. Before starting, let us understand that Veer Savarkar is a great alumni of this august organization, that is Deccan Education Society. Deccan Education Society, to which we belong, is an organization working in the field of education since last about 150 years, and it was founded by none other than Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Lokmanya Tilak, Gopal Ganesh Agarkar, a great educationist, and many others were pioneers in establishing this august institution. And Veer Savarkar was the first of its great students who participated in freedom movement, who was a great revolutionary. When we hear the words Swatantravir Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, we understand his. Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, we understand that deep philosophical discourse, and thy name is Savarkar, a poet laureate, a great social reformist, a great patriotic figure, a great revolutionary, an extraordinary orator, a legendary historian, and playwright, then philosopher, then visionary Savarkar, so many aspects of one personality by which we are puzzled whether one man like Veer Savarkar can do so many things in his life. In that sense, we have to analyze his biography and his life. Swatantravir Vinayak Damodar Savarkar was born in 1883 on 28th of May in a small village near Nasik city. The name of the village was Bagur. He completed his schooling in Bagur and Nasik. During his school days only, he founded Mitra Mela, the unit, a small unit of students, and he was leading that and developing that unit of friends for patriotic, to inculcate in them patriotic feelings. He was a staunch reader of Kesri and Kal, the then newspapers, who used to propagate nationalist thoughts in the minds of citizens of India. And Veer Savarkar nurtured his talents through various activities, including the readings like this. After completing his matriculation, he came to Pune and joined Ferguson College of Deccan Education Society. During his college days itself, as a youth leader, he took initiative in burning the foreign clothes near Lakdi Bridge, as is popularly known as, on Deccan Gymkhana. Lokmanya Tilak was his guru, and he was the staunch follower of his thoughts. Lokmanya Tilak guided Savarkar that for uh, giving some message to the society and awakening and uprising the society, he should not burn few clothes. A lorry truck full of foreign clothes should be collected from Pune city, and those should be taken up to a particular spot and then burned. The same thing was followed by Veer Savarkar, and Lokmanya Tilak and Shivram Pant Paranspe spoke on that august occasion. We are told that Savarkar was a visionary. In today's parlance, whether his thoughts are important, whether his thoughts and his actions are relevant, we have to analyze that, and right from this burning of foreign clothes, we have to understand that Veer Savarkar's thoughts are useful, they are visionary as far as today's world is concerned. What his message was, that we should be indigenously developing our own products. We should not be dependent on foreign help or foreign things. We should not be using foreign things. For that, indigenous products, indigenous thoughts, indigenous everything should be the way of life of every citizen. That was the thought which Swatantra Savarkar intended to give, and the same is followed till date. We are developing our intercontinental missiles, we are developing our tanks, we have understood properly that we cannot be dependent on any foreign country for help or for trade or for any reason whatsoever. We have to have our own everything ready to cope up with any eventuality. And especially when, under the leadership of Atalji, when we did second nuclear blast and nuclear test after 1974 in Pokhran, that extraordinary sanctions were levied against India. But afterwards, after a few years, Americans and the foreign nations had to withdraw all the sanctions because they understood that India is not dependent on them in any way. In fact, they need India and India's help. That was the thing because of which, actually speaking, that we could survive in this competitive world. And Savarkar's thoughts of indigenousness were visionary, which he propagated in the beginning of 20th century. He did this as a student of Ferguson College. Thereafter, he was awarded Shivaji Scholarship by Dadabhai Nauroji. With the recommendation of Lokmanya Tilak, Swatantraveer Savarkar went to England, and during his journey to England, en route, he got several friends, and that Mitra Mela, which he started with as an organization, was gathered momentum in England. Because of Savarkar's thoughts that many revolutionaries were enlightened, a young and very enthusiastic, dynamic, and probably flamboyant student like Madan Lal Dhingra became staunch nationalists after coming into the aura of Veer Savarkar, and he fired pistol on Curzon Wiley. That was the time when visionary Savarkar put one note in his pocket, which was confiscated by Britishers. And that article, that small article, was not published by British newspapers. Of course, Savarkar wrote it. It was a thought of Madan Lal Dhingra, who was subsequently hanged because of the assassination of Curzon Wiley. And that that note which Savarkar put in his pocket, which was confiscated by Britishers, was published by Veer Savarkar through his one of the friends, Guy Altrit, who was a Britisher. Guy Altrit suffered to helping Savarkar imprisonment for about 2 years, and he was probably the first who suffered imprisonment from India's freedom movement. Apart from Madan Lal Dhingra, one more revolutionary, Mr. Bapat, popularly known as Senapati Bapat. Subsequently, he turned into staunch Gandhian. Mr. Bapat was very much instrumental in preparing bombs and getting bomb manuals from Russian revolutionaries in London. Under the leadership of Savarkar, bomb manuals were sent to India. In, in the capsule of thick books, pistols were sent to India, and through those pistols, various revolutionary activities were carried out. One of that was in Nasik when Jackson was assassinated, and because of that, probably Savarkar was trapped. At that moment, Senapati Bapat who was successful in making the bomb, was very much enthusiastic, uh, trying to attack British Parliament with the help of that bomb, which Savarkar discouraged and told him specifically that no, this is not the time at which he should do something like this, because there is every likelihood that Mr. Bapat may be caught, and this movement which Savarkar had started, that is of revolutionary movement, may die in the beginning stages of it, because of which Senapati Bapat did not do anything like that. But Savarkar was trapped. Savarkar was uh, British police were behind him, and his activities were watched by Britishers. A great activity was carried out in those times by Veer Savarkar, and that was along with his say bombs and pistols and revolutionary things. He was using pen also as a weapon. Swatantraveer Savarkar had written one book which was popularly named after as 1857 Swatantra Samar, War of Independence in 1857. By then, this 1857 war was termed as mutiny by Britishers. Everywhere, Britishers taught this as Indian soldiers' mutiny. They were never in the mode of recognizing 1857 War of Independence, but Swatantravir Savarkar, by using the historical tools and the literature and the records of British libraries, wrote this extraordinary book, and he was on the verge of publishing it. British Secret Service officers were behind him, and they understood that something volcanic is written by Veer Savarkar. And the first legal action was initiated against Veer Savarkar. We, being the students of law, we should be knowing about all these things, that by grossly violating the provisions of law, Britishers put ban on that handwritten manuscript of Indian War of Independence 1857. Worst ever case in the history of law, that, and you must be aware of, that any book, any publication is and can be banned only after it is publicized and not before that. Here is the first violation of law by Britishers themselves, just because India was under their bondage, and that too in London. The manuscript of that book was banned. It was difficult to carry that manuscript anywhere and everywhere. Like a bomb, it was treated as. And then what was the recourse? Savarkar did not have any recourse, any other option but to send it secretively to his brother Ganesh Pant Savarkar in India. That book reached India. Attempt was made to publish that book in India, but again that was in vain because the manuscript of that book was banned. Unprecedented. Never in the history of any literature that this type of thing has happened ever. That before publication, before seeing the daylight, some written work, some book is banned. Again, that book was sent to Holland, to America, and the history, that book created a history. It was published, it was printed and published in US, then Holland. Lala Hardaya printed it. Sardar Bhagat Singh got that book, and he also was involved in these types of revolutionary activities, and inspiration he got was from this book of Veer Savarkar. So basically, the first impact of illegal act on the part of British government was there because of this written book of Savarkar, 1857 War of Independence of India. This was this was the first row, and Savarkar was the student of law at that time. He went to London to pursue barrister's degree. Because of his revolutionary activities, that Veer Savarkar was not granted, or he was denied the degree of barristership. Thereafter, Savarkar went to France, then again came back to India, came back to London, and on London railway station, Veer Savarkar was arrested. Veer Savarkar was arrested and put behind the bars. And what were the charges against him? Charges were obviously that of working against the interests of nation, treachery, this, that. And obviously, he was very much inclined to be punished for death. He was sent to India, and during en route on the uh, on that route, sea route rather, when he was escorted, being transported to India on Moria ship, he tried to escape with the cheerings and inspiration taken from Shivaji Maharaj. Shivaji Maharaj got himself relieved and escaped from the clutches and from the imprisonment of Aurangzeb. The manner in which he tried to escape, Savarkar also tried to escape, and his planning was determined, predetermined. Madam Kama, another revolutionary, was very much keen to join him in France. Savarkar could land on French land, but overpowered by British police officers, French police officers did not took active efforts to keep Savarkar in their custody, and Savarkar was returned back to British officers who were there overpowering French police officials. This case, again a law and breach of international code of conduct and international law. This breach was done by British officers on the French soil, and Savarkar was recaptured on French soil when he was on foreign land, that is on free land of France, and the matter went to International Court of Justice. Again, being the students of law, we all know that international law is a mockery. Few of my teachers may be here teaching international law, but fact remains that survival of the fittest, strongest is only going to win. This is the rule of nature. This is the rule of international law. Even nobody questions the mightier whether he has broken the laws or not. Ultimately, nothing succeeds like success. So Britishers were successful getting back the custody of Savarkar on French soil, and through their connections, they could hush up that international court matter, and Savarkar did not get justice over there. Probably the first case in Indian legal history that our revolutionaries case was fought in ICJ, and Veer Savarkar lost it. Of course, there was nobody to represent him, but fact remains that the case was lost, and Britishers' custody over Veer Savarkar was recognized by ICJ by grossly violating the sovereignty of French land and French government over their land. Veer Savarkar was brought to India, and case was fought against him in India for treachery and all. Again, by grossly violating the provisions of law. I repeat, by grossly violating the provisions of law, Savarkar was given unprecedented punishment. And that unprecedented punishment was of 2 life imprisonments. Please understand the vigor of it. Please understand the atrocity and the torture behind it. 2 life imprisonments. That is 50 years of imprisonment, and that too in Andamans. In those times, a person who is going to go to Andaman in imprisonment is never going to return back. That was the assumption. He is going to die over there, simple as that. And Swatantraveer Savarkar was to be relieved in the year 1960 if he would have been put behind the bars for 50 years plus. Interestingly enough, the words immediately uttered by Veer Savarkar in the court hall itself, 2 imprisonments. This indicates that this Christian regime of Britishers have accepted our philosophy of rebirth. Christians do not believe in rebirth. Only Hindu culture, Hindu traditions, and Hindu ethos believes or contemplates something like rebirth. By giving me two life imprisonments, because in your parlance, life is only one. So maximum punishment, and as is properly recognized by law, is one imprisonment, one life imprisonment, because there is one life. But by awarding me two life imprisonments, you firstly have violated your own law, and secondly, very interestingly, you have accepted our philosophy of rebirth. That was the word. These were the words uttered by Savarkar in the court. Simultaneously, he said, 50 years, whether your regime is going to survive in India for next 50 years. Punishment was awarded in the year 1910. He was deported to Andamans in 1910. Interestingly enough, 50 years British regime did not survive. In 1947, we got our freedom, and Savarkar's words again came true that 50 years British era will not survive in India. They will have to quit India. Interestingly enough, a very bad phase, the worst ever phase in his life, started by going to Andaman. In Andaman, he had to suffer extraordinary, inhuman punishments, wherein he was forced to churn uh, the, what you can say, kathya of coconut covers. He had to junk, and rather extraordinary punishment was suffered, extraordinary body torture was there, because of which his health spoiled, and because of which so many tortures he suffered. Indubhushan Roy, another patriotic young boy, another revolutionary, he was also there in Andaman with Savarkar. Savarkar tried to help him, tried to build him courage, tried to give him moral and ethical courage to fight this extraordinary situation. But unfortunately, he committed suicide. Indubhushan Roy was again a martyr in Andaman. So many deaths in front of him. Savarkar's brother was also there on life imprisonment in Andaman, who happened to meet him after a few years of spending in Andaman. Extraordinary body torture and extraordinary uh, punishment he suffered in Andaman, but he never succumbed to any pressure whatsoever. He had to suffer solitary confinement also, from where only death punishments and executed imprisoned persons could be seen. His moral was totally down, but his great intellect of poetry came to his rescue. Again, in Andaman, he was denied pen and paper. He wrote on walls with stones and thorns and what all. He used to write the poem over there on the wall, by heart it. And when some imprisoned uh, fellow used to be meeting him, he will make that person by heart it. And then in this manner, few poems of Veer Savarkar could be brought out of Andaman, and those were published. Fact remains that his poetry made him survive over there. Extraordinary poems he wrote in Andaman times. Not only that, his social aptitude and social work and thought process was very much alive during those times also. He observed that Muslim warders who were also suffering imprisonment, or the Muslim people who were there imprisoned in Andaman, they used to torture Hindus, Hindu imprisoned interns over there. and they used to convert them by putting some meat in their food. Savarkar, after observing this, understood that this is the outgoing of Hindu culture. These people are going to permanently lose their religion because of their foolish faith that eating meat is going to throw them out of religion. When Savarkar observed this, he started preaching in Hindu imprisoned interns that if you are having this feeling that by eating meat your religion is lost and you become Muslim, then eat again a betel leaf and be Hindu. Through this, through this discourse, he made it clear that the place of virtues, the place of dharma, the way we call it as, is sentimental issue, has nothing to do with what you eat or how you behave and all. It is your heartfelt thinking process and nothing else. By eating meat, you do not lose your dharma. That that was the thing which Savarkar preached in Andamans also. Yes, one more very important allegation is leveled against Veer Savarkar in today's world. Of course, that is politically motivated. That Savarkar wrote a letter of apology to Britishers and escaped from Andaman. Whether it has got any truth, we have to see that in historical parlance, because in one of his speeches, Savarkar has addressed this issue. Very interestingly, he was suffering over there in Andamans. There was a threat to his life. There was a possibility that Savarkar may not survive. There was a possibility that his work, which he has initiated for freedom of the nation, is going to finish with him in Andamans. So, Veer Savarkar wrote few letters to British regime, to jail authorities for his relief, relieving from jail. What were those letters? Without apologizing for the things which he has done, Savarkar wrote specifically that allow me to go out because I want to live a normal life and I will not participate in political activities. If not me, then a persons who are patriotic and who are imprisoned as political inmates suffering punishments because of treachery and all, leave them. If you relieve these people of imprisonment, that is as good as relieving me. Savarkar was negotiating the terms and conditions of his release and nothing else. Please understand this. It is very important. Savarkar was not apologizing, he was negotiating the terms, strictly following the footsteps of Veer Shivaji. Shivaji Maharaj also did the same thing while being in imprisonment of Aurangzeb. He wrote several letters to Aurangzeb saying that allow me, I am staunch follower of Muslim nation and Muslim rule. I am your servant, I am your obedient servant. Allow me to go to south. I will work as your servant there. I am your follower. Allow me to go. These types of letters were written by Shivaji to Aurangzeb. And of course, he escaped. It's not that Aurangzeb enlarged him by having that thought process of greatness in his mind and gigantic mind that he allowed Shivaji to go. No, Shivaji had to escape. And after Shivaji getting escaped and coming back to Pune and Rajgad, what he did? He coronated himself. He established a Hindu kingdom, Hindu empire. That was the thing. So these letters did not came into the way of Veer Shivaji and his credentials. Because those letters were admittedly written to enemy. Please understand this. Opposing to this philosophy, subsequently Congress movement under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, he wrote various letters to Britishers, and his strike and his agitation also used to start by giving notice to Britishers. One thing was sure, admittedly Britishers were our enemies throughout. You informing your steps to opposite party, to your enemy, and then agitating, what type of strategy it is. But under the guise of Niti and Dharma, Bhagavad Gita and the lessons of Bhagavad Gita, lessons of Chanakya, lessons of Shivaji were ignored or were not understood by the people at large and the leaders subsequently. But Savarkar was staunch follower of Lord Krishna, Lokmanya Tilak, Chanakya and Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Once Savarkar said after 1937 that if somebody has got right to punish me is only Shivaji Maharaj and nobody else. We have to analyze this whether Savarkar was saying right or wrong. He has the courage to say that only Shivaji Maharaj can punish me and nobody else has got right to punish me. Why? Really Savarkar was following the footsteps of Shivaji. So he wrote the letters. Those were diplomatic communications and those were the communications made with enemies. An enemy has to be cheated. With enemy, you cannot be faithful. You cannot be following morals, ethics, code of conduct because you are dealing with enemy. So Savarkar was also trying to, build a communication, trying to have an escape route by writing such diplomatic letters. Of course, Britishers were also not very keen to relieve Savarkar of imprisonment for the simple reason that Savarkar was termed as the most dangerous imprisoned intern vis-a-vis British regime. So obviously they did not allow such mercy petitions. But because of external pressure, because of Congress leaders proposing for Savarkar's enlargement from imprisonment, and because of Savarkar's diplomacy that he could succeed in coming out of jail from Andamans on some terms and conditions. And those terms and conditions were that Savarkar will not leave one place wherein he will be posted. For about 12 years, he was posted in Ratnagiri. Then, he was not supposed to participate in any political activity. But for a visionary leader like Savarkar, for a legend like Savarkar, only politics and political work is not the work which a person of his caliber should have been doing. He had to do so many works in so many fields because of which he escaped in this manner by following the footsteps of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and was lodged in Ratnagiri. Again, his placement and his lodging in Ratnagiri was also a very well intended intellectual exercise. Swatantravir Savarkar was very much keen in doing his social reformist work in the fortress of Ratnagiri, that of Kokanastha Brahmins, from where some ailment started. Savarkar observed in Andaman also that Hindus and Muslims, they are having not good, forget good relations, they were behaving like enemies of each other. Simultaneously, Hindu religion, a Hindu dharma and Hindu community is suffering from so many tragic uh, compulsions and traditions which were foolish enough to doom them, because of which Swatantravir Savarkar started making social reforms in Ratnagiri, and that too in the fortress of Kokanastha Brahmin community, who was the most torturous community in those times. Brahmin community did atrocities upon other people and downtrodden, because of which a tradition of untouchability started. Savarkar was the reformist, hailing from Brahmin community, that too a Kokanastha Brahmin, working in the fortress of Kokanastha Brahmin people, started eliminating and taking efforts in eliminating untouchability. Untouchability was the curse and was the, in a way, a staunch obstacle in the Hindu society and Hindu community. People were separated from each other. Casteism developed. And in order to overpower all these things and to eliminate these evils from Hindu society and to build Hindu society as one society, Savarkar did Himalayan efforts in that Ratnagiri regime of his. During Ratnagiri era, Savarkar started Patit Pavan Mandir, wherein untouchables could enter the temple and perform their puja. In that area, he started programs of bringing all castes, women, for the festivals and many other social celebrations, because of which again the assimilation process started. He started having lunch, dinner programs and functions being organized of various people wherein they will dine together. Irrespective of their caste, they will touch each other. Savarkar propagated inter-caste marriages specifically. And not only that, he attempted very specifically to eliminate the evil of doing the job of the family. Whatever the family business was, the next generation was supposed to do that business only and no other business. So Brahmin's son will do Brahmin job. Kshatriya's son will do that job. Like that, a system was developed in Hindu religion. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnya, that is four castes I have created on guna and karma. What is their virtue, what is their liking, and what they can do the best. On this basis, I have created four varnas. That is what Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. That is what Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Unfortunately, it took a very bad shape in due course of time. And by birth, these things started that you have to do your father's business only and you can't do anything else. That was the tradition at that time. Savarkar attempted to break it. He wrote several essays on all these things. Not only that, Vedokti, that is Ved, ancient Ved, Puran, and all these literatures were termed as apaurushaya, that is given away by God, that is not made by men. So only Brahmins were having the right to study that, right to chant that. Savarkar strongly opposed this and said that every citizen, every noble Hindu, irrespective of his caste, should and has got right to study this, to expound this, to chant this. This literature should be spread everywhere. What is right and what is wrong, people should understand. What is good and what is bad, they should study. And old literature is not only the right of Brahmin community, that was the thought propagated by Veer Savarkar specifically. Not only that, a very bad thing was happening in those times. Today we travel across the sea. We are very happy. My son went to America for doing some extraordinary job in IT. He is doing some research in space. We are very happy about it. But in those times, if a person crosses the boundaries and crosses the sea, he used to lose his religion. He is no more a Hindu. That was the tradition, because of which Hindu religion and Hindu community was deteriorating by number. Savarkar strongly opposed this, propagated against this, and wrote several essays and several books on all these things, specifically stating that these are the elements, these are the bad things in Hindu religion. Unless we conquer it, Hindus will not unite. And unless Hindus unite, this nation has got no future. Again, a very interesting and important thing. After 1937, Swatantravir Savarkar was away. He could be participating in political activities also after 1937, because all his terms and conditions.
No clear आवाज sound, sir.
Hello.
Technical issues, sir.
Sir, there is sound
Technical
glitch.
Unable
issue.
to hear you, sir.
Now, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Am I
Yes, sir.
audible?
You're audible.
All right.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
sir. Yes.
So, Congress as an organization was in the mainstream very specifically, and Mahatma Gandhi was their leader. In that era, Savarkar decided not to join Congress, but to join Hindu Mahasabha, which was another political party of Hindu people only. And he started propagating Hindutva, organization, and Hindu unity at that time after 1937. Again, thereafter, he started propagating joining in the war, participating in the war, and army recruitment he propagated. Very interestingly, everybody opposed that, because that was the era wherein Mahatma Ji was proposing ahimsa, proposing fight without weapon, upavas, being hungry, doing civic and civil agitation on streets. Those were his methodologies. And Savarkar at that time, after 1937, started propagating recruitment in army. Everybody was criticizing Savarkar like anything, but Veer Savarkar's thoughts were so clear that he understood that this Indian society is disarmed. We don't know how to protect ourselves. If we are not used to using weapons, we cannot survive in the world. So joining army is one aspect. Today, Britishers are in need of human assistance, and they were propagating recruitment. So Savarkar strongly proposed and propagated recruitment in the army. He was criticized, but several Maharashtrian people, especially, they went into army following Savarkar's commands and Savarkar's advice. The theme was, whenever the opportunity comes, you can put the bayonet on British officers and use your weapon to flush the Britishers out. But you should be at least knowing how to use the gun. And for that, you should be learning. That was the theme because of which Savarkar was propagating recruitment. Unfortunately, he was criticized then also. I will just name three incidences, three quotations of Mahatma Gandhi at three different stages in the freedom movement, and I will stop because nothing much to be said about this. Very interestingly, in today's war, wherein Ukraine is attacked by USSR, very interesting captions and very interesting messages are spread that send some mill equipments to US, sorry, to Ukraine and all to help them fighting Sarkar. Very interesting, because Mahatma Gandhi said this. He was very much uh, opposing the weapons and weaponization and even mechanization. He was very much keen to use hand mill to have your own cloth woven. Mahatma Ji was very much against mechanization, and Savarkar was propagating mechanization even. So this was the scene, and at that time Mahatma Ji at one stage stated to Britishers that you quit India, but keep your army behind so that there will not be any anarchy in India. On another occasion, he said that you quit, you take away your army also, we don't want anything, and if given a freedom, we will not have our army. We will not have our protective mechanism because we believe in Buddha philosophy, we believe in ahimsa and all, so we don't need army. These were the sentences uttered by Mahatma Gandhi at two different points of time, and full of contradictions and confusion was that era, wherein none other than the great leader of Congress and great multifaceted personality like Acharya Atre, he writes in his autobiography that in those times God was speaking in the ears of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi was telling that to Jawaharlal Nehru. Jawaharlal Nehru was telling that to us, and we were following. And thereafter, when he understood that even ahimsa could not help saving our own people during the atrocities and during the massacre in partition, Acharya Atre left Congress saying that the volume of himsa, the volume of massacre, which might not have been done with the help of weapons, that was done by ahimsa. These were the words of Acharya Atre, and he quit Congress. This is the paradox of the whole scene. Savarkar was very much propagating at that point of time Hindutva, building Hindu nation, propagating Hindutva as a thought, and organizing Hindu society and unity of Hindu society was his aim, for which he was working throughout his life. And then one more, and probably the last topic of my speech today is his Hindutva. Badly criticized, assumed to be primitive, assumed to be racist, what all allegations could be leveled against Hindutva, and how best it could be said about Sarva Dharma Samabhav and what all is liberalism and all. It is Hindutva which is badly criticized today also. And under that guise of criticizing Hindutva, Congress did not spare any effort or any attempt to appease Muslims for votes. Still, they could not avoid partition on the basis of religion. And today also, appeasement politics is going on. And on the other hand, Hindutva, Hindu nation, Hindu society being unified, being built is one more thought which was propagated by Savarkar strongly. That thought is attempted to be built, that thought is attempted to be propagated now vehemently by ruling party and many others. An organization like RSS is also doing this thing. Whether this thought is right, whether this thought is going to save us, whether Hindutva is going to help us in any way whatsoever, or we are against secularism. Let us understand one thing, that the concept of secularism was added in the preamble of our nation, our constitution, after about 30 years after we getting freedom. So in the beginning, when Constituent Assembly met and the constitution was given away by the Constituent Assembly to the people of this nation, they did not think of anything like secularism. And what is secularism? Again, not defined anywhere. Sarva Dharma Samabhav, secularism. He is giving away equal facilities to all the religions, thereby state involving itself into giving away the facilities and monetary help and everything to different religions. Or another thought like laicite, what is French concept, and French constitution depends on that, and it is based on that, the concept of laicite. Whatever is your religion, keep it at your home. Follow whatever you wish to do. But when on public street and public platform, you will not have your religion. State doesn't recognize you on the basis of your religion. You will be treated equally by eliminating your religion, irrespective of your religion. You will be treated equally. No appeasement, no special treatment to any community, any caste, any creed, any religion, any linguistic minority, or something like that. That is also secularism. What is secularism in real sense? These words were made to confuse all of us, and foreigners concept attempted to be incorporated in Indian constitution is troubling us as far as conceptual understanding of the subject is concerned. Let me be very clear about this, that being a Hindu, I am not against secularism. But I am strongly against appeasement, and that is what is exactly propagated by Veer Savarkar. Savarkar said that one man, one vote, no reservations on the basis of religion and all. Every person will have one vote, was strongly propagated. And Savarkar was considered a staunch Hindu. Savarkar was and is charged for, being reformist or being radical and fanatic and what all. Let us understand what that fanaticism is, and that is available in written form by Veer Savarkar himself in his autobiography. He writes that when all other religions will leave their religious feeling, they will say that we are humans. We don't want our religion. We will be merging ourselves into humanhood. I will be the first to join that human race. I will not propagate my Hinduism there, because everybody is relieving himself or herself of his religion. But when a Muslim person is staying as Muslim, when Christian is propagating Christianity, when any other religious person is saying that he is staunch believer of that religion, I have also every right to say that I am staunch Hindu. A simple phenomenon which he propagates. And what's wrong in it? If we are in democracy, every person has got right to propagate his or her own thoughts. So, if a Muslim can have his or her own thoughts, then Hindu also should have that thoughts. Simple as that. And this was the scene which was propagated by Savarkar. But see his definition of Hindutva, which is very interesting and important. While writing a treatise on Hindutva, he doesn't say Hinduism. He doesn't say Hindu Dharma, Hindu religion. He doesn't define Hindu Sanskriti. Savarkar defines Hindutva, that is Hindu-ness. What is there being Hindu? That is what is defined. And in that definition, he doesn't bring any religious activities. He doesn't say that believer of Lord Vishnu is Hindu, Lord Shiva is Hindu, Lord Krishna is Hindu, nothing of that sort. What he writes as Hindutva and Hindu definition of Hindutva, Asindhu Sindhu Paryanta, Yasya Bharata Bhumika, Pitrubhu Punyabhushchaiva, Sa Vai Hinduriti Smrita. That is, this motherland, Ase to Himachal, right from Himalayas up to three seas, that is Kanyakumari, the people who believe that this is their motherland, that is one, the land of ancestors, Pitrubhu, and Punyabhu, that is the people who believe that in this bhumi, in this nation, in this land, their holy places are there and they have faith in those holy places. Those people are called Hindu. This has nothing to do with your way of praying, your way of performing puja, whether you perform namaz, whether you perform, Aarti or Mahaganpati's Aarti or whatever. Nothing. It has nothing to do with your way of prayer. It has got nothing to do with your any religious activity the way it is assumed in common parlance. What is here important is your direct relation, heartfelt relation to your motherland. And if you accept this concept, if it is your forefathers' land, And if it is your Punyabhu, that is holy land, that person is Hindu. And again, one more important confusion. Savarkar never said that only Hindus can stay in India. Savarkar never said that who can vote, only Hindu can vote. No, Muslim can also vote, Christian can also vote. Savarkar's concept of Hindutva is not that of citizenship. Savarkar doesn't define citizenship. What he defines is Hindutva, Hinduness. So, majority people who belong to Hindu way of life, Hindu thinking process, Hindu religion, not in the sense of religion the way foreigners tell us of way of praying and all, one book, one God, one prophet, maybe Islam, maybe Jew, maybe Christian. That is not the case with us. We say that the people who believe in the way Savarkar says to be Hindu, they are Hindu. So it is way of life in a way. It has got nothing to do with your way of prayer, your way of performing puja. And he doesn't define citizenship simultaneously. So the concept of secularism should not be associated with Hindutva for the simple reason that if we say nationhood, that is Hindutva. So Hindutva in Savarkar's views is nothing but Bharatiyatva. It is nothing but the concept wherein Indianization of everything is expected. So, irrespective of your religion, irrespective of your way of prayer, irrespective of your caste, irrespective of your creed, irrespective of your place of birth, in a way, irrespective of your language, if you are patriotic, you are Hindu. So, you are citizen, in a way. And again, every citizen need not have these types of thinking processes. Please understand, your citizenship doesn't say anything like this. It is our heartfelt relationship with our motherland. That is the sum and substance of Savarkar's Hindutva. Is it primitive? Is it in any way unsecular? Is it wrong? Is it directed against any religion, any caste, any way of prayer? My dear friends, answer is no. What it is exactly then? It is nothing but Indianization. That is what your Chief Justice of India stated recently. Indianization of everything. What is required now is Indianization. While addressing Karnataka Bar Association's program, your CGI said this recently. Indianization of everything is a basic phenomenon. If we consider this, Savarkar's Hindutva definition is the most secular definition, and this is given away by Savarkar to us because he is Hindu. That is also a thing to be thought over. Please consider this carefully, what I am speaking about. We are seeing what the world and where the world is heading to. What Islam is proposing, what Christianity is proposing, what Hindutva is proposing, what society thought process is. We are an intelligent, awakened and aware citizens of this nation. We have to be extra careful in the changing society, in the changing world. Probably the Third World War is knocking the doors because of the events happened in Ukraine yesterday. If this is the case, Savarkar's Hindutva is uniting Indian society. So it is nothing but Bharatiyatva. It is nothing but nationhood. And while expounding this thought, Savarkar says that none other than Bhagini Nivedita, the Lady Margaret, who came to India following Vivekananda's footsteps and helping Indian society and sacrificing everything. She was Christian woman. She came with Vivekananda and served this august nation. She was Christian by religion, and still Savarkar terms her as Hindu. Not only that, Bahadur Shah Zafar, the king of India, who fought Indian freedom movement of 1857, War of Independence of 1857 was fought under the leadership of Bahadur Shah Zafar, Pune's Peshwas, Rani Lakshmibai, Tatya Tope, and so many local rulers of that time. Bahadur Shah Zafar, Savarkar says that though he is born Muslim, he fought for this nation and nation's freedom. So he is Hindu. And not only this, Savarkar says that any definition should be scientific enough. If it is scientific, it has to have exceptions. So, irrespective of the fact that Bhagini Nivedita and Bahadur Shah Zafar were of different religion and prayers and way of worship, their holy lands were somewhere else, not from this august land. Still, they are Hindus because they fought for this nation, they strived for this nation's progress and freedom. So, my definition of Hindutva has got exceptions like this also. So, by this definition and the exceptions, Savarkar propagates that any other person other than ordinary ordinary Muslim or ordinary Christian or any other ordinary person of any other ordinary belief system, if he is staunch nationalist, he is Hindu, so he is Bharatiya, so he has every right over this nation, along with the person of Hindu cult by birth. This is what is Savarkar's Hindutva. Widely misconstrued, widely politicized, wildly criticized, and for this thought, Savarkar was always called and labeled as primitive, as fanatic and all. But let me clearly state what law says on this, and I will conclude my speech. In or around 1994, 95, 96, Shiv Sena leaders' election petitions went to Supreme Court. Manoj Joshi and Prabhu and many others. Those leaders' elections were attempted to be quashed on the ground that they propagated Hindutva philosophy, which is in a way religious philosophy, and that is not secular. That was the charge leveled against them in election petitions, and in that Supreme Court said that Hindutva is not primitive. Hindutva is nothing but way of life of these people staying in this nation. It is the culture, it is the civilization of this nation. It has got nothing to do with any fanatical concept, and their elections were upheld even by Supreme Court, unfortunately, without mentioning the name of Veer Savarkar, who propagated this thought in black and white. The text of his Hindutva treatise is there available in black and white to all of us. Please go through it. Unfortunately, we do not read, because of which there is ample chance and there is every opportunity to politicize anything and everything. It is so unfortunate that we really condemn our nationalist leaders, patriots, freedom fighters, and the legends like Savarkar on such flimsy, silly, politicized, and highly prejudiced opinions, political thoughts, and allegations. Time is there. We are now in 21st century. It's the era of media and era of information. This information about Savarkar is very much available in public domain. Better read it, have your objective analysis of it, keep your mind open without any prejudice, and then analyze what Savarkar was. You will understand that Savarkar is father of this nation. And actually, I'm not very much fond of this terminology because nobody can be a father of this nation. Savarkar is one of the greatest sons of this great nation. That can be the only conclusion which we can draw if we read Savarkar carefully. analyze his life and his thoughts and his behavior also. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity on this August 56th occasion of his on the eve of his death anniversary. Thank you very much.
We are thoroughly pleased to witness you. Indeed, it was an ice-breaking session, sir. Our social awareness and dedicating instincts are surely going to glow after such an enlightening talk. Thank you very much, sir. So now we'll begin with the question answer round. It's a call for the participants. Please raise your hands if you have any questions. Yes, go ahead, Rasika.
Hi, good evening. The book that you mentioned in the beginning, are there any traces of it online or offline that we can find?
It is online as well as offline. You can read it.
Okay, thank you.
Savarkar has written more than 20,000 pages. He has written dramas, he has written poems, he has written philosophical thoughts, he has written essays like Hindutva and many articles on then social evils. So you can read that. Very much available.
Participants, any other questions? Yes, go ahead, Swaraj.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes.
So my question is, what are the things we should means amend in the constitution? Uh, if we want to walk on the path of Savarkar, so is there anything we need now means to walk on his path?
Walk on the path of Savarkar, and you mean
So
constitutional amendments?
yes. Are
No.
there any?
Let me clarify. Today's constitution is good. The thought process of politicians is bad. You know, in when the British era started here, Lord Macaulay in British Parliament, he thundered that one day or the other, Britishers will have to quit India, leave India. But a day will come that I will create Black British here, and for that I have started here English education system. Please understand, every nation which is in the process of nation building has to build consensus, has to unite the people. See Israel and see us. I will create Black British here, and see your leaders in last 70 years, they are dividing you. They are dividing you on the basis of caste. They are dividing you on the basis of religion, on the basis of language. They are trying to have different segments in the society and manage their votes on the basis of that. They are not propagating unity amongst all citizens in any name whatsoever. I'm not concerned about the identity. Of course, identity is Hindutva, what Savarkar says. But if you do not want Hindutva as a word, you can say Bharatiyatva, doesn't matter. But unity should be propagated, which is not there. So constitution is good. The people who are distorting constitution and constitutional philosophy for their paltry gains, they are to be identified and they are to be finished.
So one more question, sir.
Yes.
So what as a youth can we do to walk on the path of Savarkar? What are the duties we can have?
First, for that matter, we have to read Savarkar, what Savarkar is, what Savarkar said, whether that is up to mark, whether that is relevant in 21st century challenges. And you will find that majority of his thoughts are still relevant. Majority of his thoughts. And
Yes, sir.
then,
Recently, I read an article on him about
yes,
international relations. So yes, I found it very relevant in today's era. So that's why I was asking that what should we do as a youth, as a student?
We should build organization first. We should build organization and make the political leaders understand that nobody can break us. Nobody can break us in religion on the basis of caste, creed, or religion, whatever, or language. First, so unity should be reflected first. Then we are all fighting for rights. Nobody speaks about duties. I think by 42nd Amendment, fundamental duties are incorporated in Constitution of India. And interestingly enough, you go through chapter 5 of Constitution, you will understand the same question. Sir, what are we supposed to do when we are supposed to follow a particular duty? Those duties are so vague that you do not understand what is to be done. So government's property is to be protected. Means what should I do? Constitution is vague enough. So apart from all these things, parallelly, simple things to be capsuled, simple things at our level, what we can do the best, keeping national interests in mind. We should think of our duties, not of our rights. Rights will follow. Be sure we are in 21st century, we are in democracy. Nobody is going to deprive you of your rights. Our duty first and my nation first. These should be the thoughts which we should be propagating, we should be following, and we should be implementing also. I think small things, the way Savarkar did in its college days, we can also do these things. Very small things. By identifying the problem, we can, try to sort out the problem. Whatever. And concept is nation first and what is my duty. If these two things can be thought over and followed properly, there will not be any problem.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Atharva, you can go ahead.
Hi. So I have two questions. First of all, my first question is about the petitions that Savarkar wrote. We see that Savarkar wrote 7 petitions, but on the other hand, the people who were arrested along with Savarkar and many other revolutionaries from Naujan Bharat Sabha, Hindustan Socialist Republican Army, or be it the Communist Party, never wrote petitions, at least mercy petitions. For example, the only petition that Bhagat Singh ever wrote to the British government was that shoot me, don't hang me, I'm a political prisoner. On the other hand, how do we term Savarkar's petitions as strategies? And then, if Savarkar knew all the strategies, should we just determine that all these other revolutionaries did not know anything about strategies?
Yes.
Or tactics?
I will answer this. Savarkar has himself answered this in his one of the speeches. 3 speeches of Veer Savarkar in his own voice are available. Please listen to that carefully. Krupan and Kootaniti is known to Maharashtrians. The Krupan, that is sword, and Kootaniti, that is diplomacy. Rajputs, they fought, but they did not do Krishna Niti. They did not know diplomacy. See, Lord Krishna also ran away. That's why he is termed as Ranchod Das. To destroy Kalayavan, who was a demon, and that Kalayavan was to be killed through Muchkunda, the famous seer who was sleeping in that hill. Lord Krishna ran till then. Why he could not use Sudarshan Chakra? He could have. But which tool to be used when is your diplomacy? And that is properly implemented by Chanakya, that is properly followed by Shivaji, and that is done by Savarkar. I don't undermine Bhagat Singh, who said that shoot me, because Bhagat Singh very well knew that there is no escape route once he is imprisoned by Britishers. So shoot me. But Savarkar was alive. Savarkar was not interested in toiling in jail and dying unsung. Instead of that, he wanted to do social reforms. So whatever terms Britishers accept and Britishers tell him to follow, if on those terms he can come out and do some better work than politics, what is harm in it? Tell me that. Shivaji Maharaj's father, Shahaji Raje, he was also serving till his last to Adil Shah, the opponent. But being there was also a diplomacy of Shivaji. Please understand this. Are you going to criticize Shahaji Raje for this? That he was serving Muslims and Adil Shah? No. There is a tactical battle. And these people were master of tactics. How to deal with these subjects was everybody's choice. In a given set of facts, they did something which was right. We are talking of eternality of Veer Savarkar. Would you have been happy if Savarkar would have died in jail in Andaman? Instead, what he did in Ratnagiri, what he did thereafter, and till his last, what all he did, please see to that, which was more important than he dying in jail. So if he would have accepted, assuming I do not discuss about these things. I say that yes, Savarkar apologized. Let us accept this for the sake of argument. We are all lawyers. Savarkar apologized. Savarkar were given retreat by Britishers and was allowed to go away. Fine. But was he the servant of Britishers thereafter? What he did thereafter is more important than what letters he wrote. It's a very small tactical thing. This is an attempt to finish Savarkar's thoughts, and only because of this, because see, thereafter Hindutva started. Thereafter Hindu community being built was the thought process, and Savarkar was the pioneer in that. Till then, nobody said about it in written form and in practice also. Because of that, probably the RSS movement started, and because of that, today that momentum has gathered of Hindu religion and Hindu people. That such a strong organization, one and only organization in the entire world is there of Hindu people. There is no other organization of other people, other community people, other religious people in the world. This is because of Savarkar. So people very well know that Savarkar was the biggest enemy of these thoughts who want to divide you. And that's why Savarkar is criticized. Parallel to that, Britishers also knew that Savarkar is the only enemy whom they revered. That's why very well it was that Britishers never accepted these types of apologies, if at all Savarkar might have given tendered to them. Please understand that based on apologies, assuming without admitting, assuming that these apologies are there, Britishers did not relieve him from the jail on the basis of those apologies. Upon specific terms and conditions, they relieved him of jail. Please understand this. Everybody is misguided, and this misguiding, creating confusion, thereby leveling false charges against our own patriotic leaders is happening in this country, and especially in Maharashtra.
Sir, I'd like to continue my question.
Yes,
then how do you explain the sudden shift in Savarkar's politics after being released from the jail?
Because he
From
was just a minute. I specifically stated that he accepted the terms. He accepted the terms because dying in Andaman was one option to him, and doing some social work, thereby eliminating Hindu society problems and trying to organize Hindu society was a bigger aim in front of him. And obviously, dying in Andaman cannot be the aim. Writing foolish letter, this is foolish letter, assuming that he has written this. So, and please understand, he is not cheating. He is writing this letter to an enemy. So every enemy who is receiving this letter, whether enemy believed in it, assuming enemy believed in it, then I would say that Savarkar has nicely cheated British people, the way Shivaji cheated Aurangzeb and escaped. What Shivaji did thereafter, parallelly what Savarkar did thereafter, is very important. So he molded himself. He changed his work and fabric of work. Earlier he was doing, say, patriotic and revolutionary activities. He understood that fighting against Britishers, probably with the help of weapon, will not help. So he started building a society who will in turn fight. What is harm in it? He tried to build an organization. He started his activities in the year 1937. His brother Ganesh Pant was very much keen and participated in the activities of RSS in the beginning. He was also participating and founder somewhat of RSS. And see what is happening after 37 and see what is happening today. At least we can say that few lakhs of Hindus are coming together on one banner. If Savarkar would not have been there, if these thought propagating people would not have been there, we would not have been united. Very simple. So, what work Savarkar did, he changed his stance, he changed the fabric of his work, that's all, nothing else. This work was also very important. By then, society was also to be built because we were scattered, we were divided. What is harm if Savarkar did this work? Don't you underestimate? Do you underestimate this work? Savarkar himself has addressed this in a public rally. He said that if you forget my jump in the sea, deep sea, while escaping from Moria ship, no problem, but don't forget my work of social reforms, because he knew that social reforms work is more important than revolutionary work. That was his thought. So he did it. What's wrong in it? It was a conscious
Sir,
decision.
I'd like to mention that the difference between Shivaji's Ganimikawa and Savarkar's mercy petitions is that even after striking a deal with Aurangzeb, a temporary deal, Shivaji never gave up his weapons against Aurangzeb.
Just
that is an important difference.
Parallelly, Savarkar changed his way of operation, and when the opportunity came, he propagated recruitment only. He never gave away to a thought or yielded to a thought of ahimsa. No weapon. He did not follow
he
this.
Did not, but he did yield to the struggle against the struggle of the British state. I mean, he primarily stopped the focus of his activities against the British state and channelized it towards Hindutva-vadi activities. But anyways, I find this to be a futile argument which will rather run for a long time. I'd like to come to my second question.
Yes.
The definition of Hindutva which you placed before us is highly contradicting to the activities of Hindutva cadre and of Hindutva-vadi karyakartas on ground. Somehow you were trying to justify how Hindutva is actually the only form of how human society will unite under one banner. But in reality, Hindutva-vadi cadre and Hindutva-vadi karyakartas on ground are nothing else than temporary safety walls to channelize the anger of masses against the state, or to build up huge communal riots, or to constantly peddle propaganda against anybody who questions Hindutvawadis. How do you justify this gap in your definition and in the actuality of Hindutva?
I am telling here something about Savarkar, about activities done by Hindutva-vadi people on the ground. Every activity can be questioned. Parallelly, every activity of Congress people also can be very well questioned. Of communists can be questioned. Everything can be questioned, because we are here to just agitate and debate. We are not inclined to do anything. If we are inclined to do anything, better first, read Savarkar thoughts. I don't say read Savarkar thoughts alone. Savarkar was staunch opponent of Gandhian thoughts. Read Gandhiji's thoughts also. Read Subhash Babu's thought also. Read Bhagat Singh's thought also. Read every political philosophy and then come to a synthesis. And where I have said that Savarkar is God, Savarkar himself had said that we were the pioneers. We were the sappers and miners. We were to die. We survived. It was sheer luck. And forget us. Build new people. So we people are more inclined to discuss about history and play a blame game and play our own politics out of this. Instead, accept that these people were men. They might have committed some wrongs. I don't say Savarkar might not have committed any wrong. Here we are to analyze Savarkar's thoughts. Parallelly, every politician's thought is to be analyzed, understood, read over completely, and then our public opinion should be developed and take away whatever was the best, have respect towards each political personality who toiled for the freedom of this nation. Savarkar has answered everything. Please read. Savarkar says that whoever died for this nation is to be revered. But the person who cannot do anything but just performs puja at his home and offers some flowers to the nation, to the God, and prays that my nation, let that nation be free from bondage. That person's contribution is also there in Indian freedom movement. This is what Savarkar says. Savarkar reveres Gandhiji. Vittal Ramji Shinde reveres Savarkar. Ambedkar reversed Savarkar. These people were having high regards towards each other. And still they were contradicting each other philosophically. So what is our role today is read their literature first. Don't read commentaries. Ambedkar has written whatever he has written, available. Read Savarkar what he has written, available. Read Gandhiji what he has written, available in the market. Then have your opinion. And as I said, first priority, nation first. Second priority, my duty first. Think of these things. Think of nation building. If somebody is wrong, somebody has committed blunder, accept it. By criticizing that, today you don't get anything. We are not on that. What Savarkar did was the subject today. What Hindutwadi Karyakartas are doing, analyze, find out whether that is wrong or right, whether they are following Savarkar's philosophy or not. You are free to do that. I am not on that point today. I have my opinions about this. We can discuss it afterwards.
No, but I sense that you have successfully sidelined my original question. How do you explain the gap between the definition you presented and the actual work of Hindutvawadis throughout this last century and the past?
That is the biggest ever tragedy of every philosopher. His thoughts are never understood by their followers. So this gap. Muhammad Paigambar was the biggest ever reformer in those times. What is today's scenario? Gandhiji was giving away some preachings on philosophical counts. What is today's scenario? Our Congress is following Gandhiji's principles, then we should have Sarkar, not computer. Are we following Gandhiji's principles? Then we should follow Ahimsa. We should not have intercontinental missile, which has been developed by our own leaders. Indiraji did atomic test. So this type of paradox and controversies you will find everywhere. What is important and what is the best in the interest of my nation? Think every action of everybody only on this count. Instead of debating, try to analyze whether my national interest is protected. If not, then anybody and everybody is wrong. If answer is yes, then that person's thinking process is right. Simple as that. Analyze it at your level. If you are thinking like this, better analyze, and for that first read. How many things have you read? Have you read Gandhiji? Have you read Savarkar? Have you read Ambedkar? Have you read Phule? Have you read philosophers? Yogi Aurobindo? Once we start analyzing like this, then you will understand that few things might have been wrong, but they are humans. Our problem is that we consider someone as God, and then we cannot accept any criticism of that person. That should not be the case. We should accept them as human beings and analyze their deeds. If it is in the best interest of the nation, if nationhood is developed because of that, fine. If it is against the interest, don't blame that person. Yes, he might have committed wrong. Believe in his bona fides, believe in his sincerity. That is what I mean to say. I'm not right tracking anything, but you are opening up such a spectrum which has nothing to do with Savarkar and Savarkar's thoughts. I have not said anything that people today are following Savarkar. People today do not understand what Savarkar is. That is the problem. They have not read Savarkar. That is the problem. They just go on opinions and criticisms. From where, in one news item, one political leader was having some papers in his hand, and see the apologies given by Savarkar as if he is holding that paper of written apology tendered by Savarkar with in his hands and saying that this is all public gimmicks. They are all politicians. Don't believe in them. Better read. That is the answer. Being students, you are supposed to read. Yes, next.
Okay, next, Shreya, you may go. Shreya, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. So actually, I want to ask if Savarkar's ideas were so strong regarding secularism, then why were they not considered by Constituent Assembly at the beginning while drafting the constitution, and why were they added years later in the constitution? If Savarkar was there,
First thing, Savarkar has nothing to do with secularism the way we are talking today. First, then I never said that Savarkar wrote something on secularism. I said that whatever Savarkar wrote is absolutely secular. And Constituent Assembly came out with constitution. They also not said anything about secularism. Were they wrong? Answer is no. That was not the topic of that time. First, nation was divided on the basis of religion. Pakistan was created on the basis that Hindus and Muslims cannot stay together. That was the problem. Where was the question of secularism then? We were all fooled. And where Savarkar said about secularism at that point of time? I have also not said anything about Savarkar saying on secularism. I said that Savarkar's definition of Hindutva, which was subsequently criticized as unsecular, is upheld by our Supreme Court, saying that Hindutva is a way of life. Hindutva has nothing to do with religion and way of prayers. This is what your Supreme Court says. That is what is propagated by Savarkar. Supreme Court doesn't mention the name of Savarkar, doesn't mention in that judgment the definition of the word Hindutva propagated by Savarkar. But in essence, Supreme Court writes the same thing, what Savarkar stated. That is my contention.
Okay, Shivam. Shivam, are you there?
Yeah. As you have said, we must read Savarkar first, but we have seen that there are many few books available about Savarkar. Like in recent time, we have seen the Vikram Sampath book. In contrast, there are too many books about Gandhis and Nehru. What are your reason? What might be the reasons for this, and what's your opinion on this? Secondly, I would like to ask. We talk so much about the mercy petitions of Savarkar, but we hardly hear about the mercy petition written by Motilal Nehru for Jawaharlal Nehru when he was in the jail. What's your thought on this?
See, first thing, I don't have any opinion on this because this is all politicized. One person attacking Savarkar, so another person criticizing Motilal Nehru. In my opinion, both were patriots. Might have written these letters with some view. Unless we understand that objectively, we have no right to criticize that. Very simple proposition. You know, Gandhiji has stated this in 1945. First statement of Gandhiji, vivisect me before vivisecting India. I will not allow partition. Partition will happen on my dead body. And while addressing Congress committee meeting, wherein only Purushottam Das Tandon was the person who opposed the partition of India. Only Purushottam Das Tandon, rest all accepted Gandhiji's proposition, and then Gandhiji stated in that speech that I have become old, Jawahar is also old, we have suffered imprisonment for years together, counted, aggregated. We have no courage, we have no capacity now to face imprisonment. We are unarmed, so we cannot fight with Muslim terror. Muslim terror has started. Partition is knocking the doors. Jinnah is aggressive and adamant. Unless we accept partition, India will go in bloodshed, in bleed. India will bleed. So better accept partition. This was the speech of Mahatma Ji, to whom Purushottam Das Tandon was the only person who opposed it. Was Mahatma Ji wrong? Was Purushottam Das right? what was other people in the Congress doing, what Nehru was doing. See, it's very easy to criticize, and history doesn't change because of your criticism. Let us understand that. And then me justifying Nehru, me justifying Savarkar, me justifying Gandhi, it's something which is just for the sake of debate and nothing else. Because of that act, whether my nation was benefited, it's criteria one. Secondly, they were bona fide. They were not anti-nationals. They were not traitors. Let us understand that. Yeah, they might have got wrong. But now we are in 21st century, not accepting the fact that these leaders were gods. In those times, our people, our generations were nurtured in this manner that they were gods. You cannot say anything against Gandhi. You cannot say anything against Nehru. These were the days. Acharya Atre, none other than Acharya Atre writes that if you are Maharashtrian, you will understand the stature of Acharya Atre in Maharashtrian people's mind. Acharya Atre states specifically that, and it is in written form available. I am not cooking stories here. Atre says that God speaks in the ears of Gandhiji. Gandhiji tells that to Nehru, and Nehru tells us, and we follow. Will any leader tell this and accept this like this today? Or as a student, and especially the student of law, are you going to accept this thought today? That God speaks in the ears of this Narendra Modi. Narendra Modi tells us, and we accept such a foolish thought. But these were the psyche of Indian people then. From this, we have come to this. Please understand, analyze, understand that time situation. That will help you understanding the historical facts rightly.
I hope all the participants are done. So I would request Shruti Dhoot to propose vote of thanks. Shruti, are you here?
Okay. As Veer Savarkar once said, calmness is the preparation, but boldness is execution. This should be the watchword during the moment of crisis. Thank you so much. I take an immense honor in presenting this vote of thanks. First and foremost, I would like to thank our keynote speaker, Advocate Nitin Apte sir, Chairman, College Development Committee, DAS Sri Navalmal Firodia Law College. Sir, your esteemed words have made a huge impact in all of us, and you have ignited the Savarkar inside all of us. The visionary behind this event, Professor Anagha Baldota ma'am, Convincer, Director, Center for Legal Excellence, and Head Cultural Department. Our backbone of strength, Madhura Agarkar ma'am, the Marathi actress, director, and producer. Thankful for your august presence. And my heartfelt thanks to the student coordinator of the Club Aesthetica, Gautami Yadav, Urja Mishra, and also all the members of the club for this successful event. I would like to extend my thanks to our today's anchor Samruddhi Kanchan and all the volunteers for their esteemed efforts. I would like to extend my vote of thanks to our audience for being so patient and active. Thank you so much to all of you. Now I'd like to humbly request everyone to turn on their cameras for a group picture.